I'm just so excited that Corey's running for Senate. I've enjoyed working with Greg Clausen. He is a great guy, but as it's been said numerous times, he votes the wrong way. And he has not voted our conservative values and has voted for $2 billion in tax increases. And that is not what's going to help families in Minnesota thrive. So I just wanted to introduce myself briefly. I think everyone knows me. I'm Anna Wills. I'm the state representative in Apple Valley, Rose Mountain, Coates, and I am running for my third term. So I kind of feel like the old hat, even though I'm still learning. It's definitely a continual learning experience being in the legislature as the issues tend to evolve. And I wanted to give just a brief update where we're at. Everybody's probably heard now that there's a potential special session on the horizon because the bonding bill failed to pass in the final moments of session. Essentially what happened was the House passed the bonding bill, sent it over to the Senate, and then the Senate decided to add on an amendment that would fund Southwest Light Rail. And that was not something that had been agreed to by both parties, by both the House and Senate leadership earlier in the day when the bill was put before us. We adjourned in the House, and so the Senate was stuck with having to either remove the amendment or the bill would fail. And they failed to remove the amendment, so thus the bill failed. And that bonding bill, generally bonding is not something we as Republicans would support, but it had $700 million in funding for roads and bridges infrastructure throughout the state. It was one of the best bonding bills, from what I've heard from colleagues who have been there longer than I have, that has been seen in a very long time.
It's always a trick.
And we were unable to get to an agreement on transportation funding, so this was our last chance to get a form of transportation funding passed. And so we just heard from the governor today. He sent us a letter about 5 pages long listing his demands of what he'd like to see in a revised bonding bill. And I wish I had had a chance to count up the dollars because he listed out project after project. Some of them were around $6 million or $8 million. Some of them were as high as one of them was $66 million. If you add those up, I'm sure it's well over several hundred million additional spending he'd like to include in that bill. And one that I thought was kind of strange was $8 million for the DNR to be able to rehab an old mine shaft. Okay, that's a priority. I don't think Minnesota really needs us to be spending money on that. And so we're waiting to hear what will happen. The supplemental budget bill was passed or signed by the governor today, and that provided some funding and also some tax relief we were able to tuck into that bill. And one of the provisions in there that we're really excited about is a tax exemption for military pension pay. Most states in the United States offer an exemption for that. Minnesota is one of the few that has not. And legislators have been working on that initiative for about 20 years now, trying to get that passed. So we're very excited that we finally got that passed. And that will help provide an incentive for military retirees to stay in Minnesota. And a lot of them still are very young and want to get a second job, and would encourage them to stay here to have that job here in Minnesota. There's also several different provisions that I had in the supplemental bill for, I wish I'd written them down, I'm trying to remember exactly what they were. Because I had 6 altogether, and half of them were in the tax bill, half of them were in the supplemental bill. One of them was for funding for deaf students to be able to go to Metro Deaf School, which is going to be a much better opportunity for them to be able to address their hearing needs and their educational needs. And unfortunately, Metro Deaf School had been denying families the opportunity to attend, and so this allows them to be able to go. And there was also, in the tax bill that I hope will get signed, I have a provision in there. It's a version of a bill that I authored that will allow $100,000 tax exemption for the first $100,000 on the statewide business property tax. Businesses in Minnesota are taxed twice on their property tax. There's just the regular local property tax and then also the statewide property tax. So this would provide some relief on that statewide business property tax. And we also were able to get into the bill tax credits or deductions for 529 plans to incentivize people to save for college instead of racking up debt. And so those are just a couple of things that I've worked on, and we're looking forward to hopefully getting a special session so we can get bonding done and addressed, and hopefully without including all of the additional demands that the governor is putting out there. And I'd like to see the bill passed as originally passed by the House. That was what was agreed to by both the House and the Senate initially. And we can get that done and we can focus on the campaign. It's going to be an exhausting summer, and we're looking to have you all join us out on the campaign trail. We need your support with door knocking and lit drops and putting a sign in your yard, making phone calls as we get closer to the election to remind people to get out and vote. And none of this is possible without financial support, and many of you have donated already, and we want to say thank you so much for that. And anything you can continue to do financially will help us pay for the flyers that we have to distribute and mail out. They get very expensive, unfortunately, but it's the cost of running for office, and we're willing to put in the time to do it, but we definitely need the help. We can't do it alone. And we're grateful to our families who support us and all of you. So I'm excited to introduce Allie Jimenez-Hopper, who is running in Tara Mack's seat. And we're going to miss Tara. She's been a great asset to the community for several years. And I know Allie is eager and excited to fill that position. And I'd love